Hello, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with artists from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Faleata Ualesi is an emerging contemporary Samoan artist living in Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland. His current work is built around motifs shown through grids and Pacific patterns. I loved meeting Faleata. We had such a beautiful chat, and it was great for him to come to my studio out at Muriwai Beach and enjoy my garden, as many of my guests do. And we had a really good chat about the black taro patch. In this episode, we talk about Faleata's teaching career, how he manages his art practice around his job, and how he feels having a full-time job actually, in a way, takes away the pressure to sell his artwork, allowing him to focus on experimenting and exploring and trying new techniques and media. Faleata is a proud South Aucklander raised in Ōtara. He has participated in the South First annual group shows for the last 2 years and will again in 2024. Faleata talks passionately about his work inspired by siapo, tapa and Samoan tattoo, and how he is currently experimenting with breaking free out of the box, using more open curved lines, texture, colour and pattern. We discuss his use of acrylic pens, his commission work, his drawings and paintings, his light boxes, and of course the beautiful installation tribute to his parents in the Auckland CBD. I love meeting Faleata, and I am sure that you will really enjoy his inspiring story. Talofa Faleata.
Talofa, Mandy.
Welcome to Muriwai.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's really lovely to have you here, and we have had a couple of, I think the last 3 guests have been Zoom conversations, which is always harder. So it's very lovely to have you here in person and to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. I thought we'd make a bit of a day and come out with my family and spend a bit of time here. It's so beautiful, your surroundings and your garden. So lovely, Mandy.
Thank you. Yeah, I love my garden, and normally sort of drag my guests through to have a look, as I did with you. So we were looking at the black taro patch, which is quite huge now, and it's kind of in its prime at the moment. And we were talking about whether you can actually eat ornamental taro.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can eat the leaves, but they won't have any taro. So we don't eat the taro here in New Zealand anyway. The weather's not good enough to grow the tuber, but yeah, leaves, I'd say the leaves will be good. Yeah, cook it long enough, bit of coconut cream, bit of onions, salt, be nice, delicious.
Yum. That sounds interesting. Maybe I need to come to your place to get the lesson. So your parents were born in Samoa and they came to New Zealand in the 1960s, and you were born here in Auckland, Tāmaki Makaurau.
Yeah, so my parents came separately from Samoa. They already knew each other in Samoa, but then they met again here. And yeah, in the 60s. And then I was born in 72. So I was the 6th of 7 children. So we had a big family growing up and started in Ponsonby and John Street. And then my parents bought in Ōtara. With the influx of Pacific Islanders and the Māori urban migration, all culminated in us being in Ōtara quite early on in the piece. I think it was about maybe 68. My parents bought there, and so yeah, I grew up in Ōtara, and went to school in Ōtara and or Ōtara, I should say. I think part of who I am now, obviously, is that being having lived and and spent a lot of my time as a child and part of my adult years in Ōtara and in South Auckland. And I think that comes through in my work. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been involved in the South First exhibitions last year, and was it the year before?
Yeah.
And there's another one coming this year.
Yeah.
So you're a proud South Aucklander.
Yeah, definitely. I think Yoko, who's kind of the heads our team and organises us and sets everything up, she often says that coming from South Auckland, that's your superpower, because and living in Ōtara, that was our superpower, because the way we grew up and the things that we experienced are very specialised to growing up in Ōtara, and our experiences have made us who we are, and people want to hear our stories now. It's times have changed. People, a lot of playwrights and writers and artists are from South Auckland and Ōtara. So yeah, definitely very proud.
Yeah, isn't that great? It does seem to have changed over the last 20 years. There's much more. It seems like there's much more talent coming out of that area, but also it's more publicised and more valued in sort of society.
Yeah, and I think so take the South First for example. So the first year we did it, it was in the Fresh Gallery in Ōtara, and then the following year we couldn't get in, and so Yoko was able to get us into the depot over in Devonport. And yeah, that was great. A different place, and different people got to see it. And my family all came out and travelled and came to experience it. And then this year we're coming back to South Auckland, so it's going to be at the Mangere Arts Centre. So yeah, exciting. It's a different makeup of artists. So keep an eye out for that. Man.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like such a fantastic show at the depot, and it's so good, isn't it, to have that strong group coming from South Auckland into a place like Devonport, and it's kind of educating your audience in a way. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, I think so too. I think like spreading the word of the talent that's coming out of maybe one of the most unlikely places that people might think that talent could come out of, but yeah, it's there and it's thriving, I believe. Yeah, so yeah.
So great. So can you take us back to your childhood, Faleata, and talk to us about maybe, art in high school? It's always interesting to hear about how artists found art at that stage of their life, and then talk about where you went to from there.
Sure. I think I was in primary, and we had this the teacher had a little drawing competition where we were reading some kind of picture book, and I remember copying the character and creating some bubble font or something. And I remember thinking it wasn't too hard. It had come quite easily, and it looked good. And I got a prize. I was first in the class or something. And I remember thinking, starting to the idea that maybe, I'm good at this. And so went to high school and did art all the way through high school. Was a top art student at school. In the senior school prize giving's got the top art award.
What school was that for that?
At Otahu College.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it did come easy. It was something that I was blessed with, and so because it came easy, I didn't work that hard at it. My teacher always said, "Oh, you're trying to fill in 3 boards with maybe only enough for 2 boards or something," And so I did well enough that way. But then when my art teacher suggested, apply for Elam, so I did the slides and that, sent it through, and I didn't get in, and so that was just. It was what it was. I wasn't. If I got in, I would have gone, but I wasn't. I was already intending to go to uni anyway, so I just went and did arts and English. That was my higher subject than bursary anyway. So I went and did that. So went to uni, met my now wife, left with a degree. Did it in 4 years. So that should have been 3 years. And then wasn't much to do. Coming up with the English degree, I wasn't going to be a reporter. I wasn't going to be a writer or anything like that. So I was good with kids. People had told me, I was a youth leader and stuff. So they said, you should go into teaching. So I applied to Auckland, didn't get in, grades weren't good enough. Got into Christchurch, fortunately. Went down there for a year and then came back to Auckland and started teaching, But I was a English teacher, and then I was a PE teacher. So eventually, I was still doodling and sketching a lot of Pacific Island motifs and patterns. So I was looking at tapa cloth, any art that had that on it, that had all the designs and patterns of Samoan tattoos, the original tattoo photos that were done historically by I forget who did it, but it's like a black and white print, and it's all of that. So looking at all that and using those, but never really doing anything with it. Just I lived overseas as well. Worked in Japan for a couple of years, and then in England, taught in England as well. With my wife, all of that, and was still drawing and doing stuff, but hadn't really come to anything. And it was almost like that was going to be it for my life. I wasn't going to go anywhere else. But then I don't know what it was, but 2018, I picked up. I was on, I don't know what it was. I think it was holidays, and I picked up a visual diary, and I started drawing some patterns in it, and then I sketched a grid, and then I used the grid to kind of to replicate the stylized flower, which is all throughout Pacific art, and that was the beginning of. I started to develop some stuff, and then I got some framed and ended up selling quite a bit to just friends and family, and then I just kept kind of developing. Went and bought some canvases and started just in with a black marker. So started out all monochromatic, and then and then I moved into colours and bought some Posca
paint pens.
Yeah, acrylic markers.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And so I still use those now. I haven't quite shifted into using acrylic paint. But that's, and opportunities have just come. I mean, it's been not slow, but a gradual thing. And I think it's been good that it's gradual. I think we said I'm a full-time teacher, so it's, I don't have to rely on the art to pay the mortgage. And I think that's why I can do what I do, is because the teaching pays the bills, and then I can just kind of relax with my art and see where it goes and And
do things for what you're feeling inside rather than what you think is going to sell.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing. But on the other hand, I don't know how you do it. Like, working full time as a teacher is a hugely consuming job. You're head of department in the English department at Tangaroa College.
Yeah, I guess early on, when I first kind of started out, I wasn't good at balancing it. So what I did was I only worked on my art in the holidays, and I felt guilty if I worked on it during the week or when I should have been marking or doing prep work. But I think I had a better understanding of myself and of the job and of my own well-being too. What brings me joy and brings me happiness, and that was the art. And so to balance that having that work-life balance was important. And so I realized, it's okay to do some art. and it brings me joy so that I can be a better teacher. But it is time, right? It's time away. It's early mornings when my family are asleep that I'm working on my art, as well as, cramming in some schoolwork and planning and all of that. But yeah, it is difficult, but it is, I guess,
There's pros and cons.
Yeah. But it's so meaningful to me doing the art and the teaching as well. Yeah. But trying to excel at both. That's the key thing is being the best I can be as a teacher and being that person who helps my students but then also giving the best of my art space. And I think it's good because my wife is very understandable and my daughter is getting older now. So there is time and they allow me to do that. So, it keeps me happy. And I think in a sense, if I'm happy, then my family can be happy too,
And also you're probably a better teacher if, that side of you, if those needs are being met, then you've got more to give.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you'd be an amazing teacher.
Oh, thank you. I early on, I don't think I was, but years of practice and years of figuring out what the kids need to know and so they can do well. Yeah. And being open to it. I think early on, maybe I wasn't so open to just doing things one way. But I think I got to a point where actually, I'm okay to experiment and try different teaching practices and whatever works for a student and allowing them the opportunity to kind of tap into what they might like instead of what I might like or what I think they might like. Yeah.
And that's so important. And, teachers, being a teacher, ex-teacher myself, it's a very important job. And there are a lot of teachers who are so passionate about what they do, but it is such a hard job and teachers often end up feeling a bit burnt out and, stretched way too thin.
Our school, we have quite a kind of whānau, sense of whānau with our teachers. And as my team, we try and do things that kind of help to, replenish our cups and our hearts. So we spend a lot of time, laughing and joking and socially, we spend some time together socially and we actually care about each other and talk about families and how things are going. And when something happens to one person, we support that person. So it's all part of showing our love for each other. The same way that we kind of, in a different way, but show the kids that we love them, because then that's the connection that we can make there helps learning to take place as well. So
absolutely. When the children have got that great positive relationship with their teacher, that's where the magic happens, I think. How do you think your art practice actually influences your teaching, and do you feel like your teaching influences your art practice?
When I started, around 2018, when I started actually doing it as a practice, the art, I think that that avenue to be creative, I think actually helped me in my teaching to also be creative. I think there was a kind of an opening of the door or the floodgates in a sense, because I think it was around that time when I started to really, look at, how can I do this? How can I do this better? How can I better connect with my kids? How can I better choose and actually listen and learn as a teacher? And often as teachers, maybe we're not so open to learning. But because in my art space, I was learning and taking on a whole lot of, looking and watching and meeting people and learning about art, and myself just working and developing and stepping out and trying this and trying that. So they kind of did feed into each other. I haven't really thought about it before, but I think there was a there was a connection between it. Yeah.
And I, when I work with teachers, I always talk about the connection between literacy and visual art. And I guess working in a secondary school, it's a bit harder to work in a sort of cross-curricular way. But do you ever kind of make those connections in your English class?
We used to do a assessment. It was a static image. Yeah. So the kids have to produce a picture using which the verbal, whatever the phrases they use, should be reflected in the visual that they use. So that often I was quite good at teaching that and also giving them hints on, and feedback on where they could improve and what they could do. But often in my class, being an artist, you have the artistic eye for the aesthetic, and so my posters in my class, and often people would come into my class. Oh, your class looks so nice. It's just understanding, how things are. Lots of, it's not a whole lot of like 20 things all in a row, because then the eye doesn't pick up on any single one. It's like a group of things. So knowing that, having space around stuff, so people actually can focus on it. Yeah, that kind of understanding of
which I think is really important. Yeah, very important. And just for you, I mean, I know that you like to experiment and explore within your art practice, so that probably translates really well into, what you're demonstrating to the children in their creative process with English.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah.
And so you think of yourself as an artist. You've been practicing for 5 years, coming into your 6th year, and you call yourself an artist, which is how it should be. When did you get to that point where you had the confidence to think of yourself like that?
Yeah, I think it took a few years, and meeting guys like Andy, Ōtara, Marcus, Hipa, spending time with those guys who are quite established and full-time artists, and learning from them, and actually claiming that space and knowing that, yes, I am an artist. Not that I teach as well, but the art is something that really does define who I am, and what I'm doing is important. And I think, it took a little while to understand that. I think, not undervaluing it, not underplaying it, but actually what I create is actually good, and it's actually of worth and of value. And so that's coming through, and how other people are seeing it too. But that's not the important. It's nice, but the important thing is that I love it first, and I created it because I loved it. And so as I keep evolving and changing, that's the thing. I'm not creating it for any audience in mind, but thinking of, what do I like first? I love this. I love how the colors blend here. I love the expression of this, or how the grids and how it's showing this, and how it's showing another influence of what I'm doing. And that kind of thing is great. And at every stage, somebody loves it anyway, right? Someone loves it, and someone's bought it. Someone's bought my stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the, as you say, it's the important thing is where it's coming from for you, and what it means to you. And it's such a bonus when other people appreciate it as well. Yeah. So you obviously, siapo and tapa, and it's all part of your culture and something that you're very familiar with, and the Samoan tattooing and that kind of thing. It's almost like you're taking the patterns from your culture and then sort of making them quite contemporary, and then exploring different ideas within that.
I think early, when I said, before I started my, my art practice in terms of, in 2018, before that I was doing, I would copy a lot of the patterns, and just straight copying, nothing to it. And then I started playing around with it a bit. But I think it was important for me that I wasn't just replicating it, but that I was putting my own flair to it, and interpreting it in a different way. And I think that's how it became what I do and recognizable as my work. There was things that I learned when I was doing it. If you just add a little bit here and there, it changes the look of the whole thing. Making a certain line thin at one end but thicker at another end changed the whole the look of the stylistic flower and that kind of thing. The learnings I got from it was, I think of it now and I think, it's all part of that, the creative process and being open to, learning and then thinking, okay, from here, then how do I apply that to colour, or, how do I apply this in this? So taking the learning from that space and then shifting it into another area and thinking, how can I do that here, and applying it. And I think that's been a real development in what I do, and I find a lot of joy in that. I think that shows learning, is being able to take a skill in one area, in one space, and then apply it somewhere else. That's learning. That's showing development and learning, and that's what I expect my kids to do in the classroom, right? To take what we've learned in this in the film, and then apply it into another film or another text, right? And so, I think so. I'm teaching them to do that, and then I'm doing it myself in terms of my practice.
Yeah, which is so brilliant. And the motifs and the Pacifica patterns that you're using do kind of come into a lot of your works. But then I've just noticed recently that you are experimenting with other forms and other lines, and still kind of working on the same ideas around colour, possibly. So can you we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but can you tell us about your recent sort of experimentation with much more sort of curvy, open line work?
Yeah, I think, so like I said, it was a lot of my work had been had been developed around the grid. And so, for so long it had been like that. But more recently, so just before Christmas, I pumped out a lot of black and white using the grid. And then, so when I came back after the holidays, I started colouring them in and started, playing around with the colour. And it was almost like, colouring within the lines, and then it was colouring over the lines, and then continuing to mix the different colours and see how it looks. And, that grid got a bit, after a while, it became like a prison almost, where I couldn't get out of it, and I wanted to get out of it so much. And I'd been thinking about it for so long and talking with Andy and with Marcus about, breaking free out of the box. And so one day I just, white paper in front of me, got the marker and just let my arm free. And then, applied the colour and just kept like building some stuff around it and thinking, that's cool. And then, slowly developed and thought, it's a bit cluttered, and then made it a little bit, less cluttered, and looked at what's going to be in the background. And then, and then thinking about how can I show texture through the markers. How can I do that? So, definitely, I like the feedback that people give about it, because I just do it because I thought, it's aesthetically, I think it looks nice. The color, the way I've used the colors, and the curves, that freedom of expression, I guess, is coming through. And then, it's all come out of that, wanting to kind of, because I can always go back to the grid anytime, right? Yeah. But being able to be free of it and just be more free with my expression. Yeah. I've been thinking about it for a while, so it's been great to actually make the move and to actually develop something out of it.
Yeah. I love following you on Instagram, especially, I have noticed that at the end of the weekend, you're quite prolific sometimes in the weekend. It's like, whoa, that's awesome. He's into his art. And you actually kind of talk about the process that you're going through, and that you're experimenting with different things and how that feels for you. And it's quite a lovely read. It's quite informative and quite personal. And it's a really lovely way for you to kind of show your journey through Instagram, instead of just showing final works and that kind of thing. So I'm really enjoying that. And your Instagram handle is
it's kind of at house 72, but the E is a 3. So it's, yeah.
So what's that about?
Oh, so fale in Samoan is house. So so I often use house. But I couldn't get house, when I did it, I couldn't do house. It was already, house 72 was gone. So I just reversed the E and made it a 3. So
and 72 is your birth
my
date.
birth year, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out and hadn't worked it out. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, so I really recommend that people go and follow you, because it is a lovely record of your development, and I feel like those lines, you still can tell it's your work, even though it is different, and it still feels like it's fundamentally inspired by the Pacifica motifs, but you've kind of taken it to a different place slightly.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you say that, because it's, yeah, I don't want it to be a total move away from what I've been doing, but yeah, I think that the conversation needs to continue through what I do, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's great. Thank you. I take that on board.
Oh,
and
good.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
No, you're welcome. And I feel like it's just sort of the beginning, or it's just a continuation, I guess, of you just kind of moving out, branching out, and still keeping, your original works. And I'm sure that you're sort of dipping in and out of all these different techniques, which is so great. And you use the acrylic paint pens for that work as well?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think when I tell people, it's kind of, I don't know, I think some people must think, oh, he's a heathen, or some, he doesn't use real acrylic paint and brushes. But I think it's just, I've been just developing the skill of how to blend them or not necessarily blend them, but even just over the top, and how it changes the color. And you can see that up close, but if you were to go just, in the same way you do with acrylic paint, up close you can see all the brush strokes in that. In the same way you can see the lines that I've done in different colors, but once you step back a bit, it all just blends into a different color. So yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I think people think it's painted. My work, they think it's painted with acrylic, with a paintbrush, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'll be able to get the same control with a brush. Yeah.
And there's no reason why that tool should be lesser than. It's just another tool, isn't it? It's still kind of moving the paint through something, just like a paintbrush does.
Yeah, maybe I'm just reading too much into it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though, and I can totally get it. Yeah, and it's just, to me, it's just another technique and another tool. Yeah, and it's come from your hand. So that's the thing, isn't it? Mm. That's the important thing. And how do you actually, some of your works have got quite sort of almost blurred and sort of quite dreamy sort of colorways. How do you do that? Is that just part of your layering process?
Yeah, and using white. Yeah, almost like the dry brush effect, almost like that.
Okay.
So I make sure the marker is quite dry, and then just running it over the top of. And if you get the right balance of not too wet and not too dry, it acts as it blends those colors that are underneath it, and so it gives it that kind of blurry, kind of pastel-y kind of.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. Yeah,
it's one of those things, right? I just experimenting with it, and then I did it one time, and this is pretty good. This looks good. It blended those colors into something different, and I thought, hey, that looks quite nice. You can still see some of the colors coming through, some of the lines coming out, and that looked good. And then I kept using it. So a lot of my white markers are all kind of smashed a bit because of that. So I got to keep buying white markers. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about using other types of ink and potentially other tools? Do you think that would happen at some point in your practice?
Yeah, I actually bought some oil sticks. with the intent to use it, but I haven't done so. So yeah, I had intended to kind of look at that. I got an airbrush, haven't like used it, but that's kind of something that maybe I could do, and as part of it as well. Yeah, I think of Marcus's work, and he uses a lot of different medium, and like lots of layering of his mark and that. So yeah, when I looked at his, I was kind of inspired to maybe give it a try. But I think it has to come natural for me, and when the time is right for me, and
when you're ready,
make that adjustment. Yeah.
Be interesting though, and I feel like with your experimental way of working, that kind of thing might start happening, just naturally when you're ready. It would be really interesting to see what you do with that. And I think the oil sticks would be amazing with your work. I can really see it with lots of different things actually. And it does feel like it's come from a slight street art place, especially I think your more curvy lines feel quite graffiti-like almost.
Yeah. It's great you picked up on it, because I think that was an influence. Yeah, I think because of the black, often the outline of black and that. So, and then those kind of in your face colors that are right there, and the vibrancy of it. I think I look at it and I thought the same. Oh, this could be, if I had just written that into a word, it would have been a graph art. It's definitely, So definitely some links there, some influences there. I love graph art. I'm not so good at it, but it doesn't look too far a step when you look at it. What those curvy ones, it could be.
And you have done quite a lot of commissions for people, and I just love your latest commission with Deloitte's and the new Deloitte's building in Auckland.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that was a very large piece, wasn't it? And I love the way it was placed behind strips of wood. Can you tell us about that and how it came about?
So about a year and a half ago, I was approached by a friend who works there about, they were the Pacific art team there. The Pacific team there. They're called Paspe'o. So they're all Paspe'o. They're all they all work at Deloitte's. They had been asked, would they like to put something behind these slats? And they said, somebody must have mentioned, could we just put a tapa cloth? And my friend said, seems a bit, like kind of shortcutting the process, or, that it's like we're shortchanging our culture if we're going to do that. It's nice. A tapa would be nice, but, surely there's artists out there that could do something. And so he asked me, can you submit something with the intention that they were all going to get submissions from other people as well. So I submitted him something that looked similar to that. Wasn't exactly like that, but a piece that was similar. And he submitted it to the committee. They had a look at it, and then they were quite happy with it. And they were happy that they didn't want to look at anything else. So they went with it. And then, I always knew there was going to be the slat. So that was an architectural effect, part of that part of the reception area. So I knew that there was never going to be a in-your-face piece. But the size of it, right? It's like 4. I can't remember exactly the dimensions. It's about maybe 5 one way and 3 one down or something. So that's a huge piece. So I asked them, could I do it in 4 pieces and then just make it as, put it together as one, because I knew I'm never going to be able to work a piece that size. It's going to be expensive to get it custom made or whatever. So I was able to get ones that were that fit into that fit like 4 canvases, right? And then and then I live in an old villa in Sandringham, and so they have very high ceilings and very wide hallways, and so I was able to put all 4 side by side on the wall and work at it like that. So that was a new way of working, because I knew even one canvas, I wouldn't be able to work on it on a table or anything, and I'm too old to lie down on the ground and work. So it was great that I was able to do that. So for once I'd completed it for a few months, it was just in my hallway for a long time, and a lot of my family would just walk past it and like not really see it, or they'd see it and wow, and then so a great opportunity. I mean, it's I'm really grateful to Deloitte and to the Pacific team for giving me that opportunity. We did a big they did a big blessing, and a whole lot of the workers were allowed to come and attend. So there was, about 200 of them there, plus the mana whenua Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei were there because there were 2 Māori pieces there as well. So I think that Deloitte's were, being culturally responsive in terms of allowing their, firstly Māori, we understand, but then to allow the Pasifika in the same space. That's you got to credit them for allowing that to happen.
Yeah, that's so good, brilliant, and it is so beautiful. And you've got it lit up, have you, or is it just the lighting?
Did it, yeah. There's lighting around the
really
the outside of it.
effective.
Yeah.
And I just love the way you can see. I mean, it's quite unusual, isn't it, to make a piece and then to kind of semi-hide it in some ways, but it's just striking. And so there's a picture of that in the blog post if anyone wants to check that out. And then you've also done that incredible installation commission. So you did the luggage tags triptych installation, which is in the corner of High Street and Little High Street in the CBD in Auckland. So that was part of Art Week in the City. Yeah, and it was up for a couple of months. Yes. Yeah. I love it so much. Can you tell us about that one?
Somebody suggested, you should apply. A friend in the art circles, Lila, she suggested to me, she saw the depot, and she saw the light box. Yeah. Light boxes, and she said, you should apply. It's up for the art, I forgot what they call it, but that whole
heart of the city.
Yeah, all heart of the city. So I applied. I was thinking of applying anyway, but when she gave me the extra push, I went and applied, and I had the concept came to me was that it was going to be, what they are. They represent luggage tags. The luggage tags that my parents, when they travelled to New Zealand, would have had on their bags. So it was all about their sacrifice in coming here, but then so it represents that. And them forging a new life here in New Zealand for myself and for future generations to come. And on it, they have the stylized flowers, but I interpreted them as stars. And so when they're hanging up and people look at them, then it's all about their journey too. So they see the stars in the way that our forefathers were wayfarers and used the stars to navigate their way home or their journeys, wherever they went, in the same way that people now could look up at these stylized stars and think about their own journeys and their own lives and where they might be going. And also like a positive future for New Zealand and for Auckland and for where we come from. So that was the concept behind it. And they loved it, and I got it. And then I commissioned Jake Oliver, who's a fabricator who runs his own laser cutting business out in Pakuranga. I went to see him and took the idea through with him, and he had created the light cube boxes before, so that was so we'd already had some history, and so the next step was doing this, and his contribution to it was amazing. He's I don't think he'd call himself an artist, but he definitely is an artist in terms of, collaborating with him was a real interesting process because, in my space, I'm the expert, but he's the expert with the material and all that. And so he was really good, really sensitive in terms of, I had the design, but there were certain ways in which the laser cutter works. And so he had to change the original design a bit, but he was very sensitive to, not changing the overall effect of it, being really aware that, the art has to be has to remain, in essence what it is, and he didn't want to change that. So, credit to him. That piece, came out of that. So
very impressive. And that's orange, isn't it? And is it using acrylic?
It's perspex. It's much more stronger than normal perspex, and they come in a whole lot of bright shades. Whereas perspex, there's really limited in the colours. Whereas this new glass type perspex comes in all these bright colours, and so there are actually 3 pieces. There's orange, I think red, and then a kind of greeny yellow one. So each of them are 3 sandwiched together. Yeah.
Wow.
And so part of it was that so the light could come through, and that the playing between the colours and all that.
And were the patterns cut out? So there was nothing you could see right through the 3 panels.
Yeah. They were all laser cut with the same pattern. With the same. I was so, even when I saw them first time, I was like, wow, these look nice. And so I'm thinking of using them in the Southverse, and I think they will look really good in a exhibition space. Yeah.
And I love the way they were hung, almost like the flags that you see in the city, but they were very solid. When you think about flags and how there's movement with the wind, it was really effective to see them coming out from the building up quite high, and then quite solid, like strong, which was really effective, I thought.
I think, I feel like that's my first kind of public alone with my, my own, just my work and being shown publicly in such a way. I've always done, I've always been a part of like group exhibitions, but that in a public space, whereas other things I've done were inside businesses or different organizations. So that was there was a kind of a joy and a delight visiting it with my family and going up into the car park, which is just there, and then going to different floors and seeing what it looked like from the different floors. Yeah, there was a real joy and people would, people I knew, we're going to go see it, or, hey, it was really cool. I was just walking along and I saw it. I was like, oh man, I could tell it was yours. Yeah, that was the thing. Some people saw it and they knew straight away it was mine, which is nice.
Yeah, and you definitely can. And I love the way you are kind of exploring different materials or different sort of versions of what you're creating. Like you mentioned the light boxes or the cubes, which are similar, I guess, in a way with perspex, but they've been made into a cube and then a coloured light inside. Is that right? Yeah. And they're really beautiful as well. And you can see the connection between the 2 works. And I feel like there's just so much that you're going to get into. I feel like there's a whole world of you, which is really exciting, I think. Do you feel like that?
When you put it like that, yeah. I think it's funny, it's almost like I shut the door on it, but I think you're right. I guess that's the thing, because it's not paying the bills. So it's like I explore, but then it's like I just moved on. But actually, it's when I think about it, there's and you're thinking of different revenue streams and being sustainable in what I do. I have to think about that. How can this become something that maybe can be in a sense can be commodified, but not really. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right, that it can be bought. But yeah, so I have thought about things like that. To the point where maybe there's tea towels or aprons that can get me on, but not. But but yes and no.
Merchandise would work really well with those.
So thinking
designs.
of that. Yeah.
Why not?
But yeah, I think I've been thinking about public art and sculpture, and thinking how funding for that and seeing what I could do.
I was going to say that. I mean, the the heart of the city, Auckland City, or the Art Week installations are so amazing, but they're temporary.
Yeah.
And in a way it's good because it gives you the product which you can then re-show.
Yeah.
But I can just see your work becoming sort of permanent fixtures around the city or around New Zealand or around the world, who knows. And I feel like there's so much potential for you to either get funding or to apply for actual projects which could become more permanent.
Yeah. I've been looking into it, and with Creative NZ, with them changing their way that they fund and the way you apply for the funding.
Yeah.
So that's looking a lot easier and a lot streamlined in terms of what I have to do to apply. So definitely looking at that as something. Yeah,
that's brilliant. How exciting! At this stage, you aren't represented by a gallery at all, and you obviously have strong connections with different galleries and have your group shows and that kind of thing, but you're not represented. Is that something that you are wanting as part of your career?
I guess that's one of the things I've talked with with Andy and Marcus about that, and the way I've been totally working on commissions, right? So, I mean, I work, and then my work, people want commissions. And so I've been kind of living that way, my artwork. Being represented by a gallery the opportunity has never arisen for me. But we talk about the pros and cons of both sides of that coin, is that I have the freedom to do whatever I want and sell to whoever I want. But I don't have the eyes of collectors. Maybe that's maybe one of the big things about not being with a gallery. So I'm happy at the moment. I mean, I'm open to anything. I mean, if that happens, it happens. It hasn't happened so far, but it hasn't meant that to the detriment of what I do.
No,
it's actually, I've just continued, and that's okay too. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess, and I accept that, and that's fine. I think about what I do. So with the grids and with the Pacific art, I think that appeals to a certain audience and a certain, certain type of gallery as well. Whereas the new things I'm doing now maybe has a different appeal, different, audience. Where some of my traditional, Pacific audience may not like that as much, or they may, but yeah, it's kind of, and I didn't develop it for that, not thinking of the audience, just where I'm moving. But I thought about that in terms of, where this could go. And I'm thinking of murals, outdoor murals and things like that, where maybe, some companies or some companies, they don't want a Pacific kind of themed artwork, but they might like this different, this different version of it, which is a bit more, yeah.
And your work lends itself so well to murals or like large walls and installations like that. And then there's that sort of sculptural version as well, if that's what people want.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so good. And I have noticed that you don't have a website. You, as I said, do a lot of promoting of your work and your process through your Instagram, but also on Facebook. Why? Was there any particular reason why you don't have a website, or have you just literally had no time?
My wife keeps pushing me to do a website. I think it's, I don't know. I think, I create something, and then it's either it's sold or it goes, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of stock, so to speak. I guess there's always going to be a time when I'm going to do a website, but I find, that's the thing with social media, and it's such an easy format, and I know it's not going out to everybody, but a lot more than used to be. But
I do think that websites are changing, or the need for a website is changing. I think I've spoken to quite a few people who don't have them and are relying on their Instagram, and that is a fantastic way for them to sell work.
Yeah.
And it probably feels more personal for you in some ways, just posting on Instagram instead of having to do all the sort of technical stuff on your website that becomes a lot more formal in some ways.
Yeah, who knows, Mandy? I think that's definitely on the cards, though. I think in the long run, I think that's where I'll head. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? Time will tell. So I guess it's time for our questions. Okay, so what would you say to your younger artistic self?
Start earlier. Start earlier in your art practice. Yeah, I think. I think I waited too long. I mean, it's never too late, but yeah, I think if I had focused on it a bit earlier and gone through those processes that I went through later in life, I think, I'd be in a different place now. So, yeah.
Did you ever consider going back and applying again to Elam?
No.
You kind of went off
I've
on
done,
another path.
So, part of my teaching process, I did my master's in educational leadership, and that was a huge sacrifice on my wife's and my daughter's behalf. But, so I'm not looking at any more study. I've got enough qualifications on the wall to...
Exactly. Yeah. You've done your dash.
Yeah.
And what would you find is one of the most challenging things of being an artist?
I think the isolation, working in a silo in a sense, because you only know what you know. And so having conversations that I've had with Andy Leleisi and with Marcus Hipa and Raymond to an extent, that really opened my eyes up to the possibilities of what I could do and what they had been doing. And so, if I hadn't made those connections and if they hadn't connected with me, that was the thing. These guys are, they're so humble and they're so generous in their time. They understand that it's the relationship is important and that for an emerging artist like myself, that they can contribute to me, but they also recognize that I'm contributing to them. So there's that. And we don't always talk about art. It's life and how things are going, and we have a joke and we have a laugh. Sometimes it's a cup of whiskey. Sometimes it's a cup of tea, and it's so good. And I think that's really helped. I think that other challenging thing is, like we talked about, the commission versus the gallery route. And we'll see how that goes.
Which artists do you find inspiring or do you love?
I think with my background, definitely Fatu Fe'u. I've met him, but we're not not friends. Whereas Andy and Marcus and them, they're all like in the same circles in a sense. But I love his the Pacific motifs and stuff right throughout, and the colours.
And he was one of the first in a way, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Also, John Pule, I like his the modern take on the tapa format, with the little sections and his narratives in these little sections. Yeah, I liked him. Michelangelo, love him. Got an opportunity to travel, so I got to see the Sistine Chapel, Pieta, David. I love all that. Colin McCann, can't go past Colin McCann. I like that he's in some of his periods he was unashamedly Christian, and God's important to me, so I like that, and the way he uses words in his art, and the way he painted those words, the layering of those. I love that. Alan Maddox, vibrancy of his colours and the crosses. Yeah, that influenced me in some of the stuff that I'd done. Yeah, and Andy and Marcus as well. Those guys as well too.
And just speaking about the ideas behind Colin McCann's work, we didn't really kind of touch on it, but if you don't mind if I just ask another question within your questions, are there other ideas that you're trying to get across?
I think I don't know if I'm trying to get it across, but I think in terms of who I am as a person, and I, as God the Creator, and I was created in His image, and so that when I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm being who I am, creating what I'm creating. I'm doing what I was born to do. I think with the modern contemporary feel to some of my Pasifika motifs and patterns, I think that's the straddling of the two cultures of my mother tongue and my Samoan culture, and the what my parents brought us here for success in this Western culture of New Zealand. The balancing between the two, but creating this hybrid of something that's in a term, and I guess that's the metaphor for who I am, and that I've become, because of the sacrifice my parents have made, I've become successful in these two worlds, representing my Samoan identity and culture, and yet successful in the New Zealand sense, and that's goes back to the sacrifice and the tribute, the luggage tribute and all that. It's acknowledging what they've done, and I can do what I do today because of what they did, because of their sacrifice, and so the recognition I get is all because of them. Okay? So a lot of that, the Lloyd's things, the high street installation, that's because my parents did what they did, which allows me to be free in my expression of what I do. So,
and that's a beautiful tribute to your parents.
Thank you. Yeah, I yes, that's the thing. It's striving to be worthy of that sacrifice. So.
You definitely are that. And I guess we've probably covered it now, but the last question is, why do you make the work that you make?
Because it can't stay within me. It's got to be out there. It's got to be, that there's something that happens, and if I don't do it, right, I get itchy, I get things happen, and so I have to create. And what I've found is that I have to continue creating. And if I continue to create, if I'm faithful and diligent in creating, the development comes. So I can't stand still. I can't stop. I have to put it out there. And so that's why it's changed. And that's why I'm at where I'm at now, because I've just been diligent and continuing to make, and create. And things change as the more I create. That's what I've learned about myself, is that's my process. Keep going, just keep going and keep getting it out. And if I keep doing that, things will change and things will develop, and I will be moving in a different direction.
Well, that brings us to the end, Faleata. It's been a complete privilege meeting you. Thank you so much for your authentic conversation. I think that it's going to be really inspiring for lots of listeners. So thank you so much for being here on the podcast.
I hope it is. I don't know if it will be, but thank you, Mandy. I really appreciate the opportunity. And to allow me just to talk. I mean, I'm talking about myself, so I guess thank you for that opportunity. Cheers.